Hello, everyone. It's Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Welcome to this week's Nadex Weekly Charts and Analysis. It is August 17th. God, I feel like we were literally just talking about the middle of July. Now we are over halfway through August. It's crazy. But that does mean I have 2 weeks till my birthday celebration. My wife tells me it's a big one, but I just keep telling her I'm just going to keep getting younger because you guys know how getting old is. It's for the birds. So with that said, let's just dive right into things today. I want to make sure that we are done ahead of time with Powell speaking today at 1:30. I want to make sure that everybody has time to analyze their charts and take advantage of the opportunities that we see fit. Welcome for those that are new here. Of course, I can't hit the button. There we go. I'll give you guys the quick kind of 2-minute rundown.
Did we just lose Brian's sound? We did. His microphone went out. You know, you would think it was Friday the 13th. I'm going to give Brian a second to see if he can solve his sound issue because it's going to be difficult for him to run through a presentation. I apologize, everyone. We're having some slight. Hey, there we go. You're back.
Come back.
You're back.
Yeah, I just got a big thing that just popped up that said audio sound check, and I was like, what was that?
You unplugged your microphone.
I didn't move. I mean, I'm not working out today.
We're all good. All right. Yeah, you're back on.
That was weird. Yeah. I have no idea what that was, guys. If it happens again, just start raising, lots of flags or whatever, and Todd will come back. That was weird. Anyway, as I mentioned, if you guys didn't hear it, I'm a price action based trader. I focus on supply and demand. I know where indicators are, so I tend to kind of use them as like a confirmation more than anything else. But most times I find that they are a crutch. So my charts will look slightly different than you guys are used to. If you guys are, accustomed to, 8,000 indicators with all the secret sauce, that's not me. I don't do that kind of stuff. Anyway, I've been trading since about 2000, really the 1999 kind of Y2K time frame. So I've seen ups, downs, lots of sideways movement during that time, crashes, booms, bust cycles. Started the traditional way with stocks and traditional options. Found Forex, absolutely loved the idea of leverage in the 24-hour market. Found futures after that. Found binary options a few years ago, and I do these presentations to really kind of share some of my trading style with you, but then also really hope to give you guys kind of a plan of how to trade it yourself. I've created a number of different courses, a bunch of them out there. Many of you guys have seen them before in the past. I'm not going to, go over those with you, but I have been inside of the industry as well, and I feel like it's important to mention, right? I've seen this from the inside. I used to work for one of the big 3 banks, and I really got an insight into bonds and how that market works. But really, it was very, very eye-opening for what everybody thinks you need to know. And then when you get on the inside, it's kind of like none of those things actually matter at all. And it was very eye-opening, very crazy. And for me, I realized that my passion was really in teaching people how to do this themselves and not doing it for them. So hopefully today you guys can pull one kind of golden nugget out of this, something whether you didn't know or a new way to look at things. And that's kind of my goal for for today's session. With that said, let's go through and cover our Nadex risk disclaimer, because as soon as I mention charts and risk and risk to reward ratios, obviously compliance is they're giving me the side eye over there saying you need to make sure that you inform everybody here. But for those of you that don't know, right, trading on Nadex involves risk and may not be appropriate for all. Members risk losing the cost of another transaction, including fees. Now, you should carefully consider whether trading on Nadex is appropriate for you in light of your investment experience and financial resources. Any trading decisions that you make are solely your responsibility and your own risk. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. None of the material herein is to be construed as a solicitation, recommendation, or offer to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC, and Nadex is a registered trademark of the IG Group. All right, it looks like it just caught up on me. I see a whole bunch of hands raised, and I see a bunch of questions. All right, okay, it's just the lost audio thing. So I think audio is good. All right, with that said, let me close this down, put that back in there. There we go. I was like, man, it will not advance to the next slide there. All right, so what we're going to cover first is the upcoming news events for the week. As you guys know, I didn't mention in the intro, love news trading. Think it's the only way to trade. If you're not looking at news, you're doing it absolutely 100% wrong. Provides I guess the most catalyst and the most movement in a shorter period of time, and that's what I like to do when I'm trading, is not spend really all day sitting here just staring at it, right? Then what we'll do is we'll jump over and we'll look at the indices and see what type of news we have. Now, don't forget, and again, I mentioned it already, 1:30 today, we have Fed Chief Powell, Fed Chair Powell speaking. The market will probably go pretty stale on us right now until he talks, and then he can provide kind of some crazy catalysts. So we're going to do the best we can with it. And, like I said, there's going to be some unknowns that we're going to find out at 1:30 today. And not to say that, it may not, it could potentially do nothing, but it's a big, it's kind of one of those, he's one of the few guys that when he talks, you better watch. And we'll see where the indices are locating themselves. Then we'll cover Forex. It's been a lot of movement in Forex in the last 24 hours, particularly for the pound. I know not everybody out there is a currency trader, and if you're not looking at it because of some preconceived kind of opinion you have about Forex, you're really missing out. You guys have heard me say a chart is a chart is a chart before. They're all the same. You do the same type of analysis on it, whether it's a stock index or a Forex chart. A lot of opportunity out there in that one. So I'm going to cover kind of where we are right now and some potential trades for the rest of the week. And then commodities. We will cover gold, oil, silver, and I'll probably mention natural gas as well. Not that today is a extremely important natural gas day, but there's been such volatility in that one, and because you can trade it at Nadex, if we have the time, I want to make sure that I cover it. Just kind of give you guys another chart that another news event that you can be looking at for later in the week. All right, with that, let's go over and let me pull up this, and let's go over to Forex Factory. And this is the data for today. I'll just go ahead and pull it for the week. We all know we started today kind of on a rocky start, right? Retail sales, core retail sales, both missed to the downside. Market not happy about it. Obviously, all the indices are red if you haven't looked yet. Industrial production month over month is increasing, okay? I mentioned today that the core retail sales numbers were kind of expected to be lower, but at the same time, they were a little bit lower than what everybody assumed. But then industrial production, they're ramping it up, so that's always a good thing. As I mentioned, Fed Chair Powell is speaking at 1:30, and again, doesn't guarantee there's going to be a talk, but right here, this line right here, that audience questions expected, that tends to be where some of the fireworks kind of pop off from. So we'll be looking for that. Tonight, New Zealand is expected to raise their interest rate, the first country since the pandemic started to actually raise. They did have one case, and it's not 100,000 or 1,000. It's one case. There was one positive case in one of their regions, and maybe that'll be mentioned or not. I don't know if that would keep them from raising the official cash rate, but yeah, first raise. So this is always great news when the markets are coming back online. Now tomorrow we have CPI for the pound. Okay, earlier in the week this was considered kind of a medium. It was an orange color. It turned to red because the pound, their labor right now is not that it's not doing well, but it's not at pre-pandemic levels yet. And in the last 24 hours, you can see the pound is down versus the dollar, 106. It's a decent amount. It's a lot, right? Euro pound is up. Again, pound weakness. And then pound yen is down 73. Again, more weakness. So with this CPI coming in there, it's expected to be lower. But if this thing is a miss to the top side, that's an immediate reversal in all three of these pound pairs. All right. So again, that's coming a little bit before the UK trading session tomorrow morning. East Coast me, it's late. If you're West Coast, it's 11 o'clock at night. You guys can stay up and trade that one. Excellent, excellent news release. Everybody has eyes on inflation right now. Then at 8:30, we have CPI for Canada. Now, dollar CAD is up about 44. We've had CAD weakness. This is one of those ones. It's expected to come in flat, but you can see the comment is higher than last time, and then the trim is just a little bit below. Not that these the common, the medium, and the trim matter as much, but the main CPI itself is the main one we focus on. If this starts to creep higher, there's your CAD weakness. There's your CAD strength. There's your reversal of what we had today. So again, it's all by itself. No other U.S. news. Go, right? 10:30, we have oil inventory tomorrow. Oil was a huge mover yesterday. Big spike down, big spike back up again. Don't forget the API number comes out later on today. We can kind of get a foreshadow into that one. That one has been fun to play, so we got to get that. And last time there's a little bit of a down draw. Then we have FOMC notes. Again, meeting notes are always a big deal. Not quite as much as PAL, but again, meeting notes are meeting notes. Things we're going to probably hear. One of them is talking about tapering. We've heard a bunch of different things. There was an article out earlier today. Where was it? Fed. There you go. Eric Rosengram backs tapering in the fall, but no rate hikes until the job market stabilizes itself. So we're talking tapering like in a month, less than a month. We're talking about tapering. That's what I'm expecting that we're going to hear in this FOMC meeting notes tomorrow. So again, could that provide fireworks and a lot of movement? Absolutely. And if you guys are not prepared for that one, you could, potentially, whether take yourself from a, losing trade to a winner, or maybe even the other way around, depending on where you are. And then tomorrow night, we have the Australian employment change to unemployment rate. You guys know I love these 9:30 releases at night. There was a great trade last night in the Australian dollar, short if you guys were able to take it. I'll show it to you guys on a chart. Love these. And after all the movement we had during the day with the dollar, Australia tomorrow night is going to be a good one. And then we have our standard Fed manufacturing and unemployment claims. We'll see. They're expected to be lower again, down to 362, with lack of any other news, and it'll probably be pretty decent. And then Friday, we have retail sales month over month for the pound first thing in the morning, and then bam, we have the CAD core retail sales. And again, expected to be much, much bigger, right? It was -2 last time, coming at 4.5. So another one of those news releases that can also provide Canadian strength. Okay, so again, another one of those currency trades. So a lot going on this week. Last week we really didn't have much. You can see this week we just had big blocks of red, which is not bad. Nothing over the weekend. And then again, Monday morning we have all the flash manufacturing and flash services PMI, bright and early, right? Bright and early. So a lot in the next 7 days, I would say. Considering we're in the middle of August, why this is important too, and why I'm pretty excited about it is in August, particularly this kind of like middle to end of August, some kids are going back to school, but there's a lot of people still vacationing right now. Like a lot of people, because I used to work at the beach when I was in college, and once you hit August, like the rates all got cheaper. And the reason why is because people are getting back home, schools are starting, college kids are going back. Really, July was the prime month for down there, and then all the rates dropped in August, but it was packed. And the reason why is because the people with little kids would start going down. This is a big vacation time, so volume is lower than a normal month. So these news releases have the power to go a lot farther, a lot easier than if we had greater volume out there. So this is kind of a big week as far as news trading goes. All right, so let's cover the indices first. Obviously, let's see here. Here was your 9:30 open. Okay, if you attended our session earlier today, we talked about a level coming in here. We had targets kind of down at the 44.32, and you can see from the open today, the initial response to the market open was a little bit up. It was it's this green candle right here. Okay, immediately went up, and within 15 minutes, it tanked all the way back down again to grab that level to push back up. And remarkably enough, I mean, I haven't moved this black line. If you were here for the Nadex session this morning for YouTube, I said it was pretty easy to draw, right? We can have multiple touches down, and you can see all it did was it came up, and right at the 10:30 mark, actually I guess a little bit after, the 10:45-ish mark, we hit our reversal, and it tanked right back down to the downside. Okay, now what happened at 10:30? You could say that maybe that was just a late industrial production, maybe, but for the most part, all that was the reversal from the open, right? And again, 9:30, industrial production pushed it up, pushed us back down, and then we're just kind of continuing the trend to the downside. So we just broke through the 44.32 level. It's a level that we talked about before. We had a couple different trade setups in there. I would say levels you need to watch out for, and again, we got kind of a bunch over here. We can extend this one across. I would say watching this level right there, right at 44.25. That's the last time we had any real true stabilization, and then we had a nice pop off that one. That was an 8:30 pop to the top side. Watch that, but the last real level of basing is really kind of this yellow level, and that's kicking in at 44.20. Now, if you guys have watched the sessions, you know I have a couple rules, and when we have these areas of where they're buying or selling, they don't last forever, right? Typically, hit number 4 is where they break. Sometimes it's 5, occasionally it's 3, right? But typically, they're good for 4 hits. This one you can actually see is an old kind of area of interest. Price has spent a lot of time there. It really likes this zone here between 44.20 and 44.17. Right below that, though, we kind of have an untested level. It dropped, it formed a base, and then it kind of stabilized itself. It hasn't touched that level. So what I would say right now is it looks like we really need we need some help. We need this thing to come down a little bit farther. I'll mark this area of interest off. Let's bring this over. Looks like we got a little bit more room to run to the downside until we get into this level. So right now with price at 44.36, right? We're basically what is happening right now. The reason why you're seeing this bounce, and here I'll move this line down because right there. The reason why price came to this level and is turning around is because everybody that has ever heard of support and resistance is in there right now trying to short this one because of these two levels. Okay. I would say this is a temporary pullback. Again, can Powell say something that jacks this through the roof? Yeah, absolutely, sure. But if you start, if you mention tapering is not necessarily as supportive as for the economy as what we've seen. I would say watch for this to come back down again, and I would say the next little bounce point would be at this 44.25 level. It's got a bit more room to run though, but this yellow line, we've already hit it 1, 2, and 3 times to the downside, so I'm not looking really for anything. Typically, we would take a short through, but right now there's not enough space before we hit an opposing zone. So what I would say right now is I'll take this one down. If we can get over here and bring it into this level, look for a kind of reversal back to the top side. Ideally, it would be great, if we had been down there before he spoke. It looks like he's going to be more of the catalyst to get us to move to the downside, right? So right now, again, there's basing. If you're, really looking for a short, yeah, there's a potential Harry Potter trade in here. Why it turned, not necessarily surprising. And again, if you wanted to continue this one, you could always continue this lower this way, right? But I don't know that at this point really that's going to be in play as much. But I mean, with this last push, I guess we could say, well, wait a second, you have a push here too, right? And you could say, yeah. I mean, there could be a case made of that one that, again, we're now following this downward trend that we're due to pull back. And again, we did have some buyers in here. So, it could stabilize and pull back up again. But I think for the most part, the market is kind of already starting to prepare for what they expect Powell to say today. And really, none of it is great. I mean, maybe he surprises everybody and says, hey, we're not tapering until next year, in which case that's a huge boom for the market. But I'm expecting it's going to be more kind of negativity and talking about we're going to start tapering later this year. And again, that lack of support should continue to drive us lower. But again, bounces into the 44.15 range are probably decent. Now, NQ. NQ is more or less the same thing, right? We had this 9:30 candle, kind of whipped this down really quick, and everyone's like, oh, it's a red open, okay. And then they got stopped out. It came right back up, and you can see that 15,005. It's 14,050, sorry. It was a level of basing. We talked about it before. It stabilized here. It bounced off of it. It came through. It kind of bounced off of it here. It stabilized again. Pulled down, came up and touched it. I would say right now, that this is more at risk, right, of dropping. But unfortunately, we don't have any buys coming in until the 14,864 range. Just like ES, I would personally prefer to be short before he speaks today. But at the same time, if we push all the way down to this level, that's kind of the market is telling us that we should be ready for a long. So, we got a bit more room to run on this one. Currently got to do what? 77. Yeah, 77 more points to the downside. Probably not going to get there before he speaks. If so, it was a pretty volatile kind of lunch hour. But, if we get a pop into here and we start to kind of rally back up again, and, we get like a failure to go lower, kind of something like this, where it pushes up, pulls back, and then can't get any deeper. But on the flip side, that would be a long opportunity for me taking this one from basically wherever the stabilization is, to go back up again. And again, could we have a end of the day rally? Sure we could. Or you could say we're raising interest rates in the first quarter next year and tapering starts. It's going to go down. But right now it's a little bit too early. There's a little tiny zone right here, but I'd be very cautious with it. Because like I said, I believe the market is preparing for negative. Now YM, very, very similar. Okay, we already had this one position push through and kind of hit, and you can see it kind of did the same thing. If I complete it out again, you can see it's making another attempt forward. So this was from earlier today, so we can take this one off. We'll leave this on there. We'll We'll leave this on there as an area of interest level, just to kind of focus on it and follow it. Really, I mean, so this one kind of has two different levels we got to watch out for. One, I would say probably in here, right? And then after that, if we get low, there's nothing stopping this one until it gets down to the 35,000. And it's crazy. All this room up here, we're like, yes, look at this, 35,500. And now we're like, yeah, 35,000 is the target again. I would say that if you guys are looking for something, and again, if we continue to drop from now, and Powell starts talking and it doesn't seem like it's going to be roses, I would say if we get a break of this level right here at 130 or 35,100, right? It's 101, but I can shrink it just a bit. There you go. That looks like it could be an 80-point drop to the downside. So it's about a 10-point. What do we got? A little bit more than that, right? A little bit more than that. It's about 24 risk for about 75 in the other direction. Would be a 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio trade. Profit targets would be down here at approximately 35,029. Sorry, 35,029. But I think overall, if we break through 35,100, I feel like the natural attraction, right, the magnetism to 35,000 could be on the radar. Now that would be a heck of a day to the downside, but we don't really need to move that much more to get there. It looks like we need about 209, right? We would need about 209. We're down about 300 right now because again, it spiked up beforehand. The daily ATR on this one, I hate what does that. 318. So it's got a bit more room to run. And again, it's going to need some PAL help because we've already moved over an ATR at this point to the downside. And it's 1220. So, yeah, I would say he turns negative whatsoever, start talking about any type of tapering. Remember, the industrial production is good right now, and we're still able to pull this one. This and the ES are the two kind of, I would say, the strongest. They're both red, but they have the least amount of movement to the downside. He starts talking about tapering. I believe that the Dow will be the biggest dropper on that one. Just because, again, you stop supporting, companies. Again, the Dow is more the industrial production side of things. So, yeah, I would say down, but unfortunately, this one I don't really have a great entry into it. Maybe if we pull back up a little bit, we can get something small. But 1 o'clock is going to be when we pull the shorter duration contracts to kind of look at that one. The Russell, kind of the same thing. Russell had an area of interest where you're looking for a break. This one doesn't have a buy coming in until 2119. It had the stabilization up top. It did kind of push a little bit higher and then got really, really choppy and dropped. Again, Russell, not surprised that it dropped with all the negative data out there, particularly retail sales. It's one of those things that any type of negativity, particularly with buying, the Russell gets affected the most. And again, this one is down 1.67% on the day. It is the weakest of all of them. Any type of bearish or dovish type talk about COVID, recovery of COVID, anything like that, again, this one should continue to push lower. And the way that it's kind of stabilizing right now, when you're looking at this, it's kind of like, that's not a bad level. This is a 15-minute chart, so we got some more candles to go. But there could be a debate whether or not, if we get a new break below this, of that level right there, put that there, and we need a 1 to 3, which is right. That's a little bit above 1 to 3. Nice little confirmation bounce through this one. Here, I'll put it here. I guess I should have done it the other way. And again, 2133, I would say just take it all the way down to this level over here. Okay. And again, that's kind of an end of day type scenario, right? So yeah, I do like how it's stabilizing. Look for it to push in, pull back right before the speech, but we need to have it inside of that zone when he starts talking. All right, which is in just over an hour from now. All right, so let's go to Australia. So Australia had a level, and we talked about a level yesterday that had been hit a few times, and all it did was drop it, pulled back, and gave us kind of a short entry in the overnight. Right now, again, we had a level at 72.70. It's continuing to push, and you can see that it had some issues. Actually, let me bring it up to 30. I don't need to go super in. See how it came in and started the base there? It's forming sellers on the top side of this one, so it wants to continue to push lower. Right now, we don't have another level until 72.34. We have about 20 pips to go. When you're looking at these levels and how they were formed, I don't know if I can see this one or not. do it on 2 hour. You can see that this is what those two areas look like. In fact, actually, this one, let's shrink that a bit into this 4 hour level there. That one should be there. Actually, I guess that one doesn't pertain anymore. But this one, we're gonna hold it there. Let's adjust these a bit. There we go. Top. I'm gonna change this to yellow. Let me drop this down to a 30. I'm gonna move this down. Trying to get this one set up for news tonight. Is more what I'm interested in. There you go. So I would say that right now, these are the two levels that we're looking at. A potential bounce, and again, if we can get down there before Powell speaks, that would be awesome. But 72.30 and 72.90 would be those two levels. Again, this level is, it was drawn off a 2 hour, so it's a much better, a higher quality zone because it's drawn off the bigger time frames. The biggest thing too on this one is if we start to break through and we start to slice through the bottom of this, if we break through that 72.21, there's a little bit of buyers sitting right there, and I'm wondering, can I see it on an hourly? Let me see here. I can see it on an hourly. I would say there are probably, it's all right. Probably down here, there's probably a hidden little level, but besides that, we got a clear racetrack to the downside. I would say watch out for this little kind of stealth level here and down here, right? Besides that, we got clear sailings to the downside. So let's see, how many pips is that? It's about 30. All right, this is how you're going to do this one. So we have a potential long here. Let's see, how many more pips is it? It's only got to go 19 pips. Got 19 pips to go an hour. So the daily or the 19, it's 11 pip ATR on the hourly. Maybe a little bit difficult. That one's a hard one. I actually like a long and a short out of this one. So if price comes down, right? If we can get down here really, really close, again, that could be a launching point for the news. If price comes down and starts to base in this level, then I like it more for a short. Because basically, if it's basing, what it shows me is there's buyers holding it up, but there's not a lot of strength. They're unable to push it down. There's too many sellers up top. In which case, I would look for a short position. And the short position is not bad. It needs to go a little bit deep, though. So it's right in the middle of that zone, which it's not horrible. You typically like to get out before the opposing area of buyers, but that's not a bad little trade. So it's kind of like one of the two, one of these two things are going to happen. I would like to get in before because I do think that they're going to give some dollar weakness. Again, tapering kind of hurts the economy, but doesn't really strengthen the dollar. A lot of people think, oh, tapering, that's good for the dollar, right? Now, raising interest rates is good for the dollar. Tapering is nothing, and tapering tends to put the economy back down a little bit. So if they taper, don't support the economy, and it starts to crash, it gives them a little bit longer of a leeway before they need to raise interest rates, right? Because typically when the market's crashing, we don't have the same level of inflation. But I would say, if we get some sideways movement, look for this one to collapse, and I'll draw the price tag on there. It's a break of 72.21 is where that would go to the downside. Now, also, again, this was a trade from last night. Talked about it last night, how we had this on there. You can see that it drove up into that area, grabbed it, and then just continued to push to the downside. And again, it's maintaining the same type of weakness. Again, there, Australia is kind of locked down. There's an additional lockdown. They found a couple additional cases. We've heard about that news. So it's not surprising that this is continuing to roll back to the downside. We've had a couple different shorts. We had one over here. We had another one over here in the last night. And at this point, I'm not really looking for longs on Australia. I would like to see tonight where we're at. And again, on a 30-minute chart is where you would find that. We haven't really put a bottom in yet, so there's no way that I can draw a place where we'd be willing to say, hey, listen, let's go long. I think on a 4 hour, I could probably find something decent enough. I would say, bring it across, and we'll go to 2 hour. We'll get a better one than that. Let's see. I would say we got a level sitting right here, right? I like how it based. I like how it popped. I like how it touched and then took off again. I think that's pretty decent. So got a small little level right there that we can kind of look for something to take a bounce off of. So Right now, we'll move this forward. Again, you can see that it hit that level. This was our profit target, and it hit and base through there. So we'll put a long on there to the top side. And 1 of 3 is sitting right there. So we got a lot of room before it gets that low. We'll take this and we will unlock it and bring it down to right there. So yeah, got a little bit more room to run, but 78.87. And again, you can trade this on Nadex, particularly at night, with that news. And if you're wondering what news I'm talking about, again, it's the New Zealand news tonight, and then the employment change for tomorrow. So it's 2 different news releases, and there's some smaller ones tonight, but this should help stimulate Australia as well. Euro pound. So Euro pound has got room to run. We talked about it coming back down. We missed our profit target just by a little bit. So we still are basically have this kind of buy / kind of alert set down here at 84.43. Hasn't been down there, hasn't been able to get there. We have an area now that we kind of had some basing, not willing to take a trade off of that one. I'm still waiting for 85.53. The last time when we ended up hitting and dropping again. So I'm waiting for one more hit. It would be hit number 3. Right now, we're not doing anything. And most of this has been driven by pound weakness. Again, looking at this, we know that we have the pound CPI data tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. I'm kind of expecting that to come in good, which again, what that'll do is that will send this pair straight down. Not straight down, but it'll send us in this direction. Again, the reason why is because the pound is in the second position. So again, looking at it turning, rolling, and dropping to the downside is what I'm looking for. So if we can get up that high right now, obviously sellers are getting in, they're stepping in right in this area, they're holding it back. They're like, no, you're not passing 85.30. And they're trying really, really hard, and the buyers are really trying to support it as well, though the lows are starting to come lower. This is, here, I'll drop this down to a 30-minute. You can see that they're really, really trying, right? If I was going to draw like a small pattern, you can say, oh, look, there's the top, and look, here's the lows, right? The lows are getting lower. It's like, oh, they're trying. Doesn't mean it can't pop up and still grab that level, but they're trying their best. They just, again, that market's closed for the day. It's going to kind of flatline at this point. I'd like that, and I'm kind of hoping, this would be ideal if I come back tonight and look at this at 9 o'clock and it's like sitting like over here. That would be ideal. Here's the news release right here, right on this line. Here, I'll put a vertical line there, right there. That's where news is. If we can get up to there by news time, it's a short all day for me. Okay. Again, that brings pound strength back into the market. We look for a short, particularly in the shorter duration contracts. Euro yen. So euro yen, we have a position here that we're looking to get short from. This one is getting short at approximately 128.28. We're there, and it's kind of slow right now. You may say, what the heck does the euro yen have to do anything? Why would this move right now? Well, it's going to be affected by the yen. And the big question is, how much is the taper going to affect the overall stock indices, which is going to affect, again, in general, the yen? Tends to be kind of a mirror to it. So I would say right now, I do like this one short. Ideally, it's kind of like, are we going to see yen strength on it? Are we going to see, there's no European news that can mess with us right now. The only thing is the yen. I like the risk to reward ratio on it. Excuse me. I like that it hit, popped up, and then came back in again. Every time it hits this level, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker and will eventually fail. And then those buyers become sellers, or they tend to. I like getting short 128.28. I think going down to, again, you can see the 1 to 3 is only down to 127.77, but there's no buyers on the other side till 127.54. So I like this, that I have a little bit extra room to run on it to the downside. Okay. Euro dollar. So euro dollar had a position to get short. Now this is one of those ones that this is why you become a Nadex trader. Okay. We were looking for a break of 117.64, right? We had 2 little profit targets set in there. We were looking for an entry, and again, it dropped. It kind of based in one candle and then shot back up again. Had you got in a binary contract, what happened? Like a daily contract? Nothing. It went up. You were basically negative whatever the cost in the transaction was, and then boom, it collapsed and came all the way back down, and now you can see it's having a hard time at 117.10. This was a heck of a move, right? From that break, this is a 50 pip move to the downside. If you don't know what the strike differential is, then you should definitely go check it out. But yeah, quite a move, right? The 8:30, here's this 9 o'clock window is where we were at for Nadex. So had you gotten into kind of a daily position or even just a 2-hour binary, let's see, if you had gotten in right here where we started with Nadex this morning, when that kind of 8:30 data came in, and you may say, what 8:30 data? This 8:30 data right here. right? Again, doesn't matter which one. You know that it's red. You know that's a big mover. It's bad for the dollar, right? But yet the dollar strengthened. Go to a short duration contract, and here down to there. Okay, that's what the move was. Really top to bottom, but that's what the move was, and it was a move of 44, 40, 33 pips, right? If we take the entire move top to bottom, right? I guess actually from the whip up to the whip down, 38 pips. So you guys know the strike differential in the 2 hours is 4 pips, right? So we're talking 9 strike prices, 10 strike, oh, no, 9, not quite 10 yet, right? But 9 strike prices in 2 hours. So there was your short duration contract off this morning. Right now, I would say it's more set up for a long, right? Again, any type of wheat dollar mentioned, like, yeah, we're going to taper, but we're not raising interest rates, something like that. If they reaffirm that, that should also provide us with some dollar weakness, right? That would be a great replacement, retracement point. And again, coming in from this level at 117.10. We've had this level on here for a while. The last time buyers got it down here, it did base a little bit, pulled up, hit it, and then boom, exploded higher. And that's kind of exactly where we're at now. So I don't know. I will say in this one, I really like this one for a binary trade setup. I'd be very cautious with any type of knockout position in this right now because of the whipsaw that could happen. I highly doubt, and again, don't quote me on this, I highly doubt Powell is going to make any mention to raising interest rates. Maybe he does. I don't think he's changed his timeline at all. But for some reason, if he gets hawkish about maintaining price stability with the dollar and potentially looking at interest rates sooner than expected, those would all be dollar strength. Could he blow up this 30-minute level? Absolutely. And he's one of the few guys that has the ability to do that. But where it is right now, 9 times out of 10, the way that it is setting up on a technical basis, price has been driven down in the overnight, really starting from this like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock window. So even though we had bad data, which should have, again, made this go up, it's been nothing but straight down in the European session. And this European move so far has been about 73 pips. It's over daily ATR. Stepping into something like POW tends to be a good reversal point. Maybe today he gives us nothing, but this guy more often than not mentions something, and again, we get reversals. Today is one of those days where we could definitely have it. And again, it's setting up. Even if you didn't take it based off of POW speaking, again, we've had this position on there for a while. You could already be long your position. And again, remember, you do have additional risk if you decide to hold this through POW speech, but that's what it looks like right now. You'd be up in your position. Okay. Pound yen. Pound yen is just grinding. So we had a Harry Potter trade set up, right? Harry Potter, the rules are it has to go below, it has to base, it has to pull back. And it kind of did that, right? It did it more or less in this level here. And we always got to get kind of more in touch. This is an old level, right? We got to get kind of a newer base level, and it's probably a little bit higher, but we're looking for a break of 150.72. It's continuing to break lower. I would say that, yeah, I'm kind of on board with this one as well. I would like this one to get down to this 150 level right here. I don't know that we can do that in one day. It's another 60 pips. Powell would have to say something pretty big to get that much strength in the yen to get this one to drop that far. And again, we do have, 12? We do have like 13 and a half hours. If we can move those 13 and a half down, remember we have the pound data right there. Put this one in. If price is able to get down to this level, right, at the news release time, right, this is all the CPI data. If CPI is higher than expected, that is considered good for the pound. That gives us the rally that we need out the other direction. So kind of a setup for tomorrow morning. Again, if you're West Coast, it's only 11 o'clock at night for you. East Coasters, it's 2 a.m., so it's a little bit early. But I would say, and again, I still think we should try to find buying opportunities for the pound because I think they are farther ahead. Okay, pound dollar. Same kind of scenario, right? I can do the same exact thing. I can draw our vertical line right there. Right now, it is currently only about 50 pips away. Could Powell say something that is bullish? Sure. Yeah, it could. And it would be the same scenario. There's the open right there. There's news. Be able to grab that one and take off. Now, this one does have a Harry Potter. It kind of is it's a level that's let me go back and I'll find it for you. It's an interesting level, in fact, that there is a level on top of a level, okay, and there is a racetrack, okay. There's a decent level of basing. there's a nice push out, and there is a touch that stabilized, maintained, and was a rally point. That's why we like it for a long. Now, if it does break through, there is a level kind of backstopping it. So could it technically come into the level here and still be valid? Yes, it could be. But once it breaks through that level, it's also forming sellers above. So it's kind of a battle back and forth again. But this is what I'm looking for right here. You see this big push, how there's really no pullbacks? This is a racetrack. So I'm kind of looking for, I'm looking for that to kind of take play. And again, first thing, if it's sitting at above, I like it for a long. Okay, I'm gonna be clear about that. I do like it for a long, but I do think that there is opportunity in this one to take this one short if it is able to break. Remember, I'm an if this then that trader. If we break through and we can get through this level down here at 136.69, if it bases and pulls back, then yes, I am looking for that one to short. But if it rallies down and price is sitting right here by tomorrow morning and we have not broken through that level, for me, that's an opportunity to look at a shorter duration contract to be able to take this one higher. Okay. And I do feel that, pound strength will come from that. Okay. Now, I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm weighing my risk to reward every single trade. You could even take the opposite of it. CPI is a big deal. You could take a position and put a position. Let's see, let me use, let's see. You could play a breakout trade and you could do one of these. Oops. Right? You could do a big breakout trade saying, hey, listen, I know tomorrow morning there's no way with CPI, right? CPI year over year being such a big figure, I know that it's going to go out of that area. And you could play a breakout as well. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about with breakout trades, Dan has done those before in the past, basically saying that, it needs to go up or down a certain amount, and then you can also bank profit. CPI is a big one, and it's going to be a big mover for the pound. So again, you could also use that as well. But I typically like to take one side, not both sides of it. It gives you a little bit better of a risk to reward. But again, this is a big thing for tomorrow morning for the pound. Dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, you can see we had a level. And remember we talked about, how many times it hits? Well, here was your one hit. There was hit number 2. And there was hit number 3. Hit number 3 pulled back down again. And then what did it do? It came up, it based in number 4, came up and gave us a long trade out the top. So remember, a lot of these trades that are set up, we are looking for 3 touches and then we're looking for the break and the continuation. This one did exactly that. And if you're not sure what I mean by that one, again, 1 touch, 2 touches, 3 touches, which means I'm no longer interested in taking this one short. I'm looking to go long now. And again, it gave us the Harry Potter trade. It went up, it based in 1 candle, it pulled back to the level, and then it took off. So again, there was your Harry Potter trade to the top side. It's now over. If you didn't get into it, again, this is more of a learning lesson. I always have that person who's like, well, what about the risk of reward? Yes, the risk of reward was fine in this one. 1 to 3 is only there, right? So that is what your trade looked like. Okay. As you can see, it ran much farther than that. It ran all the way up to 1 to 7. So you had plenty of opportunity. And again, looking at the candles that formed it, we kind of knew, right here. We knew that when it broke through, we knew that we had all this, right? So as of right now, with price in this area, we really don't have a whole lot holding us down until we get up to this level at 126.93. So how do we trade this one right now? This one's a little bit more difficult. It is clean to the top side. Powell's going to have to say something that is a dollar strength-based tool today. We technically should have had dollar weakness today, but the market is saying, no, we're doing the opposite. When it does that, it tends to have some type of an agenda. Right now, this is a bit far of a run. It's about 64 pips. Can Powell move this 64? Absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. He can. Does he do it most times? Not really. And if we did get a spike up, I'd immediately be looking to short this one anyway because it would be way too much of a move in too short of a period of time. It's a roll. There's still too many unknowns, right? I mean, you can say, yeah, we're raising interest rates, but right now, everything we're hearing with the Delta variant and COVID, there's a lot of uncertainty. Right before we started, I was telling Todd, I was like, yeah, I just literally got an email from my kids' daycare, right? They have been going to daycare, at this place for 6 years, something like that. When they were 5, they're 11 now. One of the teachers that was vaccinated got COVID. The protocol is going in. They have to shut down to August 31st. It's August 17th. So, and it also says in there, it says, please note that the health department protocol does not allow children who attend our program to attend any other child care center during this quarantine period. So they just got an email that just says, hey, listen, one of our teachers had it. They were vaccinated. We did our job, but you got to quarantine now, and your kid is not allowed to go to any other daycare. You need to stay at home. Bam, 2 weeks. So Hal can make a lot of comments, but I feel like we just don't know with school coming back on. I just don't know that it will be any type of sustained rally. If this does jump and shoot all the way up again, I would be looking for reversals in this one. Particularly, again, we have CAD data coming up too, right? We have CAD data all tomorrow morning. So good opportunity there as well. Dollar Swiss. All right, so dollar Swiss. Earlier this week, we talked about a break of the 91.39. We had two targets. The first one got hit almost immediately. The second one did not. It got about 2/3 of the way through. I guess it ran down to using the same risk level. It was at a 1 to 4.6, 1 to 4.5, right? Again, this is kind of one of those things you can have two profit targets. Make sure you trail your stop loss. In this case, when it came down, you probably would have stopped it out in here right around the original 1 to 3 anyway. But I always like to give those two. Right now, it's pulled back up into an area where on a technical basis, you're kind of like, we're kind of looking at this one. Now, this was a previously violated zone. They don't tend to have the same number of rules, kind of the same thing up here. It hit 3 times. It's a little bit riskier. It's done the same thing. You could arguably draw this as well, but we've had such a rally up since 8 o'clock this morning. It is kind of set up. I do feel that, Powell's going to have to acknowledge some of the elephants in the room. He's going to have to mention inflation, but, basically highlighting, hey, retail sales was low today. We're not where we thought we were going to be. We need to have sustained recovery for a long period, all the things that he's been saying. If he maintains the dovish standard with things, and again, saying that, yeah, we're going to start tapering because everything looks good, but we're not raising interest. I mean, if he's very, very clear about that one, that's all dollar weakness, right? Should lead us back to the downside in these two levels. As far as going long from any of these targets, again, we've hit 3 times. I don't really have much on that one. Dollar Swiss tends not to move as much, so it's one of those things you need to be a little bit riskier with it. But again, we've just kind of pulled back into the last place we were shorting. We know there's some people there. And again, maybe we rally up and maybe we're sitting, here. We only got, about 45 minutes? Maybe in the next 45 minutes, it's able to push up with just kind of the, the expectation that Powell's going to say something big, right? There could be something in there, but if anything, I like the dollar Swiss more for short. And again, if Powell says, "Hey, listen, we're raising interest rates in the middle of 2022, a year ahead of time," then yeah, I expect this one to pop. But a little 30-minute level is not going to hold that on any chart you look at. And if he says that, that'll be a surprise that 99.9995% of people never expect it. Dollar yen was up to an area. It was pretty close, and it started to roll over. Again, this has been nothing but dollar, strength. Since that 830 number, we got an immediate pop, and it continued to push. I would say it's probably due for a retracement back to the downside. It's already moved a little bit far, so kind of hard to get into it now, right? It's already found that basing, and it's already started to push back down. It's not bad that it's pushing down before Powell speaks, but again, dollar yen, is it the best one to trade news-wise? Nah, not really. And I would say the next really clean buy that I have is all the way down here at this 108.70 level. So, yeah, it's a bit too far to run. I mean, it's got about 80 pips to move. Could Powell say something that does that one? Yeah. Is this like the best one? It's all right. I mean, if you guys wanted to run a fib really from, I guess we could run it from top, but probably from the last push right here, right? Let's go style. Let's take this off. Let's go ahead and put the 30. Let's do that. You can see that level is right at the 50%. Here, I'll do this. Hold on. Do prices. We'll do percentages. There you go. So you can see the 50% retracement is at that level too. So it's a level that I would watch out for. It's there. It's already kind of happened. I was hoping we get just a little bit farther and be a little bit closer. It's there. I'm just going to say it's there. It's 109.70 is where that level's coming in. It's a 50% retracement. It's a supply zone where sellers have stepped in the past and driven it down already once. Whenever you have those two things that combine at one time, typically they are not bad setups. But like I said, it is a 30-minute level. Just be aware of that. Powell has the potential to blow right through a 30-minute level, like it's not even there. But on a purely technical basis, all things aside, it is a decent level for the that setup. Let's go across and cover commodities. So oil, right? Oil is now kind of pulling back again. right? Talk about the big swings in oil. So yesterday we had an absolutely enormous drop down, and it found its stabilization. And guess what? At 10:30, it decided that no, we don't want to go down, and went back up again. Today it was basically the same thing. We kind of had a flat. I mean, I would say it kind of did its own retracement, right? It started, it went high, and then it kind of did this little, like, you know, instead of giving us the big V, it gave us like the little V, right? And then we had a little big scenario where we literally went up, we hit 10:30, and then it said no, and then we're back down again. So, retail sales number, the move in oil right now is technically justified based off of what we saw. We didn't have a big reaction of retail sales, but again, less people buying means less demand. It did come up, and again, it did grab a zone. It was a zone that we had a one top base. I'll move this out of the way just a little bit. Whoops. We had a one top base and a pullback. We also had a touch of that in the overnight hours, which tells us that there are sellers there. We had a drive up in price, and again, right here, this candle, this one top base, this right here is 10:30. 10:30 reversal in a 30-minute zone that was tested in the overnight. Great trade and short to the downside. For those of you that are unfamiliar, again, here's our risk to reward tool. Let's put it on. Let's bring it up to 1 to 3, and you can see it took you less than an hour to if we use the 10:30 candle, it took us an hour and a half to get out. All right, and again, now it's driven much lower. So where we are now with it, I would say, typically oil, as you can see yesterday, we had this big push from 10:30, but then by 12 o'clock, we were done, and there was a little bit of a pullback. Where we are with time right now, being that 1, 2 o'clock time frame, I would say there's going to be a little bit of a Powell effect in it. I would say the Powell effect will probably carry over mostly into the indices, not necessarily into oil, but it doesn't mean we couldn't, have maybe a further kind of push in this one. I don't know. I always try to think of different scenarios of things that Powell could say that would really continue this down. We know we have an area of buyers down here at the 65, kind of like 70-ish, 65, 60-ish range. I don't know. If Powell mentions COVID and starts, I don't know. I guess if he goes on a COVID tangent today and somebody asks him questions about potential lockdowns with the schools again, I think that's a valid concern that a lot of people haven't talked about. Like I said, I just read you the daycare thing. I don't know. If I'm just trying to think, if we have to go back to Zoom school again, what does that do for overall demand if buses aren't running again? I'm sure it's a valid, if it happens like the middle of September, end of September, I actually wouldn't be surprised, right? I don't know. If they did it, I as much as a parent, as much as I don't want to have to go through that all over again, if Delta is really as contagious as they say it is, and Powell brings it up and talks about the risk of school, and we're going to have a wait and see attitude with it, I do feel like that could be a very, very bearish comment for oil. Besides that, I don't think supply-wise we have to worry about too much. Afghanistan is not really an oil-based country that we need to worry about. I don't think there's going to be an influx there. Yeah, we're rolling out of summer gas into winter gas. That should also help bring the demand down a little bit as well. So, I would say there's more factors to this to the downside than the upside. Again, a continuation and a roll back down by something that Powell says, I think is probably more likely than anything else. But we've already had kind of our little big scenario. And again, it was a 10:30 reversal. Todd and I were talking earlier today, for those of you that like webinars and things, the Next Education Summit, it seems like our oil and gas one is going to become an annual one. It looks like we're going to shoot for September, and I'm going to be talking about inventory with oil and natural gas, and kind of how to trade this with news. Well, guess what? The 10:30 reversals will come up in there. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for Nadex on that one. Gold. So gold, yeah, I'm unhappy with gold right now. Here's the European Open, right there. 3 o'clock. There it was. I'll put it a little bit higher. You can see how close I missed gold by. We've been talking about this level, the 1796, for a couple days now. Yeah, it left, and then as of the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock time frame, just has continued to tank all the way back down to 1782. So it was a level we were looking to get short from. It kind of left the station without us. It's about a $10, $12 drop, actually $15 drop at this point. Didn't get our entry, was pushing back down again. Now it's kind of stuck and it is stabilized. The reason why, Powell. Powell is going to mention inflation, but he talks about how we're seeing transitory inflation, how inflation is going back down again. We're seeing nothing. It's not sustainable. Everything we see is dissipating. Again, this is not a good story for gold. Remember, the reason why inflation is such a big deal is because the way you control inflation is through interest rates. The reason gold is not at 3,000 right now is because we don't necessarily, according to them, we don't have inflation. Whatever data Powell is looking at, all this inflation is transitory. It's all going to disappear. I know we're paying like double at the gas pumps, and food prices are high, and meat and things like that. Everything is more expensive right now, but Powell continues to maintain that this is all transitory. We're seeing no real inflation. This is all fake. Again, if he stays with that, gold should stay to the downside. Now, mentioning tapering, mentioning controlling, if he mentions any type of revision, any type of hawkish tone and raising interest rates, again, that should be good for gold. It will punch up, and the question is, do we have a Harry Potter scenario? The last time the gold was here, you can see that we had a decent base, and it dropped very, very fast. And again, I could adjust this kind of a little bit into there if I really wanted to. If we get this punch through, again, if we're able to break through the top side of this one, this is a very, very, very big psychological number right at 1,800. Right? I'm going to change this, and we'll change it to yellow, so everybody can see it. 1,800 is a very big psychological number. The reason why is because, again, having those two zeros, the media takes this one, runs wild with it. If we can break through 1,800, we pull up and we do one of these where we kind of do the, the pull up, and then we kind of stabilize and we stall a little bit. This could be a decent potential to kind of pull back again, and then have this one, kind of punch and go higher, right? And again, it's gonna take some help. I don't have Powell's speech. I don't know what Powell's going to say. I don't know what question Powell's going to get asked. But if he does knowledge inflation and talk about any type of advanced targeting, I think that this one could be, could be a takeoff point. But if he's extremely dovish, talks about COVID, all the risk that's going to happen when the kids go back to school, that's not a good talk track for him for gold. In which case, I think gold comes back down to, I mean, there'll be some buyers here. I'm not going to lie, there's some buyers sitting right there. But if we can get a push down again, I think 1739 is decent. I think another level, if we can push in there and stabilize. And again, if he does make those comments, I would say we get any type of stabilization and basing around the 1759 level. I think that also could be a nice little takeoff point too. Silver. Okay, so silver, we had a zone much higher. We knew 24 was going to be a big thing, $24 and flat and change, and it just really started the baseline. Silver has been one of those things. Once Reddit stopped talking about silver, it got very, very boring. At 23.63, remember, this is supposed to be at $100 by the end of the year, according to Reddit, because they were going to take Wall Street down. Kind of one of those things that's like, Urgh. And another thing to look out for those real big technical analysis people, again, if you want to mark off 3 there, it did go a little bit lower. I could kind of cheat and just say there and there, right? There's your 2 touches. There's your 3. There will be people looking at this and saying, oh my God, the channel is finally broken. Look at that. The channel is finally broken. Time to short. So I would say there's probably more selling pressure in silver more than gold right now, particularly if Powell brings up COVID. If he mentions COVID, anything negative in that sense, inflation, yeah, we're seeing inflation go down. If he makes that, even though I haven't seen it yet, if Powell says he's seen it in the hidden numbers, then yeah, I would say this one has more of a room to run to the downside. I don't necessarily have a buy target in it, but I would expect this one to fall. And again, everybody and their brother that is using channels and trend lines is like, oh my God, we got a short, right? Short. Looking to take this one lower. Now, last but not least, we have 1 minute to go. I want to mention natural gas. Look at that natural gas play. Okay. If you guys are not looking at natural gas, again, it's a chart is a chart is a chart. It moves just like everything else. It's been high in the curve. We know we've had larger time frame selling up top. I mean, here's what the new news moves look like. It is blowing like 9 to 10 different strike prices out in the 2-hour binaries. Here's the news that we had this morning. Our 8:30 window, we shot up. The 8:30 window came out for retail sales, and natural gas shot back down again. And you may say, what the heck does natural gas have to do with retail sales? That is an absolutely amazing question. I'm glad you asked it, and the answer is nothing. It has nothing to do with it. But whenever you see larger spikes like this, well over an ATR, into 30-minute levels at news release time, those are trading opportunities. And again, we had decent basing into there. We had an 8 o'clock candle, which was, right now the ATR is 1.9. This one jumped 6.3. Right? So it jumped 3 times the ATR. you got to be looking for a parabolic retracement trade. And I'll drop it down to a lower time frame. You can see it. It was very, very fast. Literally the 8 o'clock window, shot back up, grab that little 30-minute zone. And again, you can't see the zone here on the 5-minute, but you can see how fast this trade went up, turned, it went back down again. At the end of the day, nothing really changed. So natural gas is another one you guys should have on your radar. Look for these little stops. Inventory for this is on Thursday, but we will have some movement tomorrow. Reason why I also like it is, again, you guys can see this level of basing, the stabilization here, and we hit. We get any type of movement, look for this one to rally back up to $3.94. Okay. That's pretty much it for the day. TLT's in there. The cryptos have, for the most part, all turned red. Our favorite buddies over here, Tesla, is pushing down, but again, Tesla's approaching an area where we have buyers again. Apple's in there as well. Again, Apple's taking a little bit on the chops, but again, if you look to the left on the 30-minute, this is an area where there were some buyers in there, so there may be some stabilization there. If not, Apple's got a little bit farther run down. So, Russell is the one that's taking it on the chops the most. You can see that this one is pushing much, much lower. It looks like the market is preparing for bad news. Russell's down 2.2. Dow is down 1.26. NQ is down 1.4, so it is starting to accelerate. And then the ES is down 1.2. So it looks like ES and YM are still following. This one is also accelerating to the downside. Didn't quite make it all the way down, but whew, Russell is taking it on the chop. So it looks like that 21.33 target is in the works. So, and last but not least, let's see, dollar index is continuing to rise. So dollar index grinding. It looks like the market thinks that Powell is going to mention something about interest rates. So we will see what he has to say today. But with that said, it's time to get rolling. So make sure you guys mark off your calendars. I cannot believe it. Tuesday, August 24th, the end of August, the last one of August. And then we are back in, the September timeframe. School's back in session. I know Jin goes back on the 31st. The boys don't go back until the 7th, 8th, right after Labor Day. So crazy. 2 weeks and they're back. It's unbelievable. So anyway, thank you guys so much for attending today. I really appreciate you guys coming out. I will catch you guys next week. If you're not catching our Nadex sessions in the morning, 8:45 to 9 a.m. every single day, go to YouTube, search Nadex, hit follow, hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live and we look for the hottest opportunities every day. With that, you guys take care. Have a great one, and I'll catch you guys next week.